Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builder Supply, and this video is to bring you a closer look at the Bommer number CL4040-6-601. This is a 6-inch single-acting UL-listed spring hinge in a bright black Japan finish. And this is exactly what the hinge looks like when it comes from the factory. It will be in this partially open, under tension sort of position. Let's go over what this hinge is first, and then we're going to talk about installation. So first of all, there is a link below this video to a document called template, and we can review that. Now the 6-inch is a reference to the height of the hinge leaf. Okay, and that is indeed the case for this hinge. And from it you can get the balance of all dimensional information about the overall height of the hinge at 8 3/4, specifically the location of the screw holes. You might want to verify that before you determine whether or not this is the correct hinge for your needs. You can see that the leaf thickness of this material for the hinge is 105 thousandths of an inch. And I'll tell you, this is a very common hinge, and where I see this, and indeed where this hinge is going, is New York City specifically. I see this in multi-story buildings, old hotel buildings, everywhere. I don't know why it's so popular, so common there, but it is. Every time I sell a 4040, it seems like it's going to New York. Now the CL part of the part number means that it's got these decorative ball tips on it. If you were to omit the CL portion, you'd get the same hinge, just wouldn't have these decorative tips. Available in several different finishes: prime, black like this one, your bronze finishes, your chrome finishes, your brass finishes. And Bommer can do many other less common finishes as well. Now below this video there is also a guide in terms of how many hinges you would need given a door width, height, and weight. It's very likely that you're replacing existing hinges that are several decades old. However, you might be doing work that requires new hinges, and you need the new hinges to match the existing other hinges. Now these hinges are capable of a lot of weight, is the bottom line. 2 hinges, if you're really dealing with doors, well, depending on the quantity of hinges, up to 4 foot by 7'6", so very large door sizes. If you've got a 125-pound door and you're dealing with 3 foot wide, 2 hinges is what they recommend. If your door gets up to 155 pounds, 3 hinges is what they recommend. If you're going to a 4-foot door, 3 hinges for sure would be the recommendation. And then for doors over 7'6" in height, use an additional hinge for each additional 30-inch of door height. So 7'6" is the cutoff for 3 hinges. You get to 8 foot, you go to 4 hinges. But the bottom line is, it's really every 30-inch after that where you would go to an additional hinge. So if you got to 106-inch or taller, really, you'd be dealing not with 4 hinges, but with an additional hinge. That would really never happen with a spring hinge. Anyway, that's the point of the matter. You're going to want to not be underpowered in the spring department. It's very likely that what you have these on, or what you're putting them on, are fire-rated doors, and obviously that is a door that is required to be certainly self-latching. It has to be mechanically latched in the closed position, but it must be self-closing. And if the door is not brought to the closed position, it's technically not a fire door. So you want to be very sure that you've got enough ample spring power to get the job done, and do so in such a way without slamming the door. Now, I've installed these several times, and I have found a much greater amount of a much greater success rate when I have been cautious in terms of having enough spring power on reserve to be able to get the door into the closed position and do so predictably and reliably. That door's got to overcome that negative energy of opening, the spring hinges. It's got to get it moving from a standstill. It's got to overcome the air resistance of all that air that this, let's say 3 foot by 7 foot, 21 square feet of surface area needs to push out of the way. And then it lastly needs to overcome the friction of the strike plate hitting the latch, hitting the strike plate and into the closed position. I have found when you don't have enough spring hinges, you have to set the tension so high so as to get the door moving just with inertia to help it limp all the way to the closed position. But when you have additional spring hinge or spring hinges, you can share that load evenly across all of the spring hinges and get the door to a point where it can be open and have enough stored energy, like torque, to get it moving, and enough stored energy at the critical closing end of the cycle, so that it will gently as possible latch. It's still a spring, so it's just meant to move and stop when it's exhausted its stored energy. But when you've got additional torque on reserve, you can expect a better result than otherwise. I liken the concept to a tugboat. They don't go very fast, but they can pull a lot of weight, and that's the torque concept, where you can get the job done predictably. I'm not a fan of spring hinges to close doors, especially heavy doors, or especially doors that are life safety doors, like all fire-rated doors are. I think that hydraulic control, surface overhead closers, or concealed overhead or concealed floor closers are preferable. Hydraulic control is, for me, the preferred way of doing it. Just so happens to be that there are countless installations that a surface closer is not practical or not possible, and a spring hinge is actually the item that is perfect for the solution given all the parameters. So keep that in mind when you're determining how many spring hinges to buy. They're really not that expensive when you compare it against your door not reliably closing. And again, the operations that I see these in, fire-rated doors a lot of the time, or apartment doors in these same buildings that I've described. Now there is a link below this video to the installation instructions, and let's start there. Now, these hinges, they're unique in the sense when they come from the factory, the way by which you need to go about installing them. There is a link below this video to a document called Instructions. Your order will certainly include instructions. If they don't, not to worry, there is a link below this video to that document. Now, this is a 4040, and let's go over it now. When the hinge arrives to you, it's going to look exactly like this. There's going to be tension set under these springs, and it's going to be held open with that pin that's stuck in the barrel. You're going to want to leave it just like that. Don't do anything to it at this point. You can go right ahead and install this door, attach it to your door and frame. If you need to mortise your work, by all means go ahead and begin to do that. Get your door mortised to compensate. Per the instructions, this will work for either a left-hand or a right-hand door, or a pair of doors without changing the appearance. To obtain the opposite hand, all they're saying to do is to do this. Not a problem. Now, the hinge is designed to be fastened to the door and jamb under preset tension. That's why it comes this way. Do not remove the tension pin. It'll all be obvious in a moment. The leaves are held apart less than 90 degrees, which gives room enough to fasten the hinges onto the door and frame, meaning that you can get your screwdriver onto the screw heads, okay, at this point, the point at which it's held open. Once you get it completely screwed to the door, you will be able to open the door to 90 degrees and then remove this pin, and at that point it will naturally want to close. This tension pin back here is under tension already. That's what's forcing it to want to close. And per the installation instructions, Bommer says, if additional tension is desired, put the tension rod, which is included, into the tension collar and turn it clockwise if this is pointed up. Okay? If you've turned it over, it'll be turned counterclockwise. And at that point, you can insert that into additional holes that you would reveal once you have this other tension pin removed. And you can insert that pin and get another 1 or 2 hole maximum out of it. No more than that. What will happen is if you have too much tension set on this tension collar, the spring will distort inside of the hinge barrel and it will not work properly at that point. Or even worse, it'll break. And it's irreparable, naturally. And that's how you go about doing it. You know, regardless of the hand of the door, you're going to set it either this way or this way. And that's, you probably need pliers to pull that out. If I were to spread those pins and try to pull it out, I would need a plier to pull that little cotter pin out. That's what that is. The last thing I'd like to point out to you, if we can, is the Bommer logo right there. And right above it, it says Made in USA, a fact that Bommer is quite proud of, as am I to represent them. Bommer supplies this hinge with screws, half metal, half wood screws are what's included in here. You might need to augment that with some screws of your own. If you have a specific need for a quantity of screws, you might say, give me all wood screws. Indicate that in the comment field. Say something to the effect of all wood screws and no metal screws, or all metal screws, or half and half, that kind of thing. By all means, let us know. Any questions on the Bommer CL4040-6-601 single acting spring hinge or any other Bommer product, please feel free to reach out to us. Thank you.